Josh from CycleHunters.com. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to be installing tank pads. So I have this mocked up already just for time's sake. But the idea is a lot of customers are asking us about tank pads and grips. So what I've done here is just installed, just so that you can see, a mock-up of how this is going to go on the bike. So it's always good to kind of get it laid out ahead of time so that before you go and actually put this stuff on there, you can kind of see it, walk around it, make sure that your gaps are relatively the same as best as you can make it. If you want to get crazy, you could measure it. You could go do any different method as far as doing that. You can put dots on there, however you feel like it. But when you mock them up like this, it's pretty nice so that you're able to kind of see it ahead of time, and then once you go to peel and stick it, it's good to go. But what we're going to wind up doing is we're going to put a couple pieces of tape just on the edges so that when we go take this off, those pieces are going to line up, so I know exactly where to line them up at. And I'm going to show you that in a little bit. The other thing that you're going to need, obviously you're going to have to pick out what kind of stomp grip that you want. A bunch of different companies that make them. This is just happens to be, you know, it happens to be one that the customer liked. But basically the idea is obviously to get something that you're going to want on the bike that's supposed to fit for the bike. And these are actually made specifically for the ZX6R. So I have it sitting here in the sunlight a little bit, sort of baking. These things are pretty flexible to begin with, but you know, if you let it on there for a little bit, it's nice because it's actually going to give you the ability to sort of have them sort of meld to the tank a little bit. Okay, so one of the other things that we do to ensure that this is going to stick to the tank and to the plastic as best as possible is we're going to use an adhesion promoter, a tape primer. This stuff's easily found on you know, Amazon or eBay, any of those places. You can pretty much just search it up online and you can find it, and it's relatively inexpensive. But it goes a long way because when you put this stuff on there and you're gripping your legs to it, you're going to want to make sure that it's not moving, it's not going to go anywhere. The adhesion is at the optimum. So really simple. What we're going to do is, once we've gotten everything to where we like it, and what we're going to do is we're going to put pieces of tape around here. We're going to mark them so that when we pull this off, we're going to put the adhesion promoter around here, peel the backing off of the grip, and then when we go back to line it up, we're going to have little lines all around here so that it goes right back to where we want it to go. So I'm going to go ahead and set that stuff up, come back and show you what it looks like, and then we're going to go ahead and put the adhesion promoter on and actually put the pad on, and just go around and do that for each one. Okay, now that you can see what I've done is I've gone around here and I've put the little X everywhere where I want this to match back up when I'm going to wind up just cutting this, so that when I place it back on, all these lines are going to match up. So none of these have to be placed perfectly. Again, you can get crazy as much as you want. Really all you needed to do is just match up to the line that you wanted it to. And you know, it's not an exact science, but you do as best as you can. Like I said, if you want to get out and measure it and do templates and all that stuff, that's fine. But I don't think it's really necessary, because you can make it just as nice. Just minding the gaps, making sure that when you're going to put it on, it's going to be, you're not going to be flopping up. It's going to actually stick properly. So that's really the biggest thing, is just to make sure that it's not going to have any crimped edges or something that's popping up, because these things it can do that pretty quickly. But like I said, as you can see, just to try to get it as close to where I have it, I have these little X's. So I'm going to cut along this, leave this tape on this one side, leave the other tape on the other side, put my adhesion promoter on there, peel the backing off of this, and then place it on there, lining these up with the marks again. Okay, now you can see I've cut with a little razor blade ever so slightly and carefully around that line. So we're going to put our adhesion promoter on there. Then we're going to come back and press this on. So we're going to line these up just like so. And then there, once this lines up here, there, and then in the other spot, we're going to press it and it should be good to go. We can remove that tape and go on to the next one. Okay, I have the adhesion promoter on there. Really simple. All I did was just dip the top there in with a paper towel and just put it all over it like so. Make sure I get a little bit beyond the area. I can always go back over it, clean it up, and wax around it once I'm finished. But again, we want to make sure that we get the whole entire area, because these edges on these things, you don't want those edges popping up, especially when you're going around a corner and having it peeling off. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that, show you what it's looked like when it's all done there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this razor blade so I don't get any of my oils from my finger on top of this, because that's going to be another no-no. Want to take that and peel that up just enough so that I can get my finger in there and then peel it back. But again, the whole idea is we're trying not to touch any of that as best as possible. It's a little tough to start, but once I get it on there. And I'll probably wind up having to touch it to some degree, but the least amount possible is the idea. Okay, again, we got the adhesion promoter on there already, so we're going to try to line this stuff up as best as possible and then fix it. Looks pretty good. It's pretty fast to go on there. So once we get it on there, we're going to rub it in. Any air bubbles that are inside, we're going to try to push them all the way to the outside. So starting from the center, pushing to the outside. And then once you've gotten it to that point, go ahead and take your pieces of tape. Just peel it right back off. This is a painter's tape. It's a mild painter's tape. It's nothing that's really gonna stick too hard to it and peel up any kind of a paint. So basic painter's tape, the blue stuff works awesome. You get the green stuff too if you want, but again, it doesn't really matter too much as to the actual style of tape. Now, I'll probably just leave this one on here because we have the one underneath, and that's going to line up real nice. But you can see that's how that is. So I'm going to go ahead and finish all this up and show you what the finished product looks like. And again, the process is really simple. Line it all up how you want, put the tape on there. Again, you can do templates and all that kind of stuff, but it's sort of unnecessary. Really just depends on what you feel most comfortable in doing. But it's real easy for me just to put the tape, hold the tape down, take my X-Acto blade or my little razor blade, go right around the edges, pop it off, adhesion promoter, put it on, let it dry a little bit, set up, come back over with your pads and put it on, put your tape off, and it's a done day. Okay, so everything is buttoned up now. It looks real nice. All crisp and clean, so that when the customer picks up his bike, he's going to be pretty happy, pretty excited, I would imagine. I know I would be. So check it out. Looks pretty good. It's even as best as you can make it. Like I said, you can get rulers out if you want and go real crazy on it, but there's no need for any of that. So one of the last steps, once you've gone over all this, made sure it's all nice and pressed from in out the whole way as best as you can, what you want to do then is take a solvent. We use a solvent called Vauxhall, but basically what it does is when you've taken the adhesion promoter, you probably went outside the lines, and that's totally fine. That's kind of what you want to do to make sure that you get adhesion on these edges. So once this is on and it's dried and it's nice, you take a solvent, put the solvent on a rag, and then you go around and make sure not to, you don't want to drip and wet seep it in here. You just want it enough so you go around and you remove any of the excess adhesion promoter. So, because that's basically like a sticky, tacky kind of a substance, and you don't want that on the outside because then it looks horrible. So, you know, you go around and clean it up as much as you can. There's just like a little bit left. Just as you can kind of see, that is remnant left over from the adhesion promoter. So I'll go up and tidy it up a little bit extra. Just take the solvent and take that line and erase it. And you can see right here, takes it right off. Now, it was hard to see to begin with, but most of that, I think I got everything. There's just a little bit. I don't know if you can see it right there, but basically, you just take that, take your solvent, and go over it, and it removes the excess adhesion promoter so that you have a nice clean edge and you're not seeing it anymore. It is some hard stuff to remove, but a little bit of persistence, a little bit of elbow grease takes it right off. And you want to keep it right on that edge, because again, the idea is to make it nice and clean and professional looking as best as possible. And it takes a little bit of time. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of time just to double check everything and make it real nice. Because then you don't have to worry about it sliding. You don't have to worry about extra stuff sticking to the outside onto the paint. You don't want any of that. So again, you just remove any of that excess by rubbing over top of it as best as you can, and it'll be nice to, it'll look real nice when you're done. So I hope that little instructional helped out. Just if you're looking to do one of these, it makes it a little bit easier. But all in all, it's really just sticking it on where you want it to go. You know, they're sort of designed to be on specific tanks. So make sure that before you're purchasing one, it's supposed to fit your bike, it's supposed to fit your tank. And grab the adhesion promoter, you know, maybe wash the bike first. You want as little dirt as possible, because that stuff goes a long way, those little tiny prep things. Anyway, till the next, happy riding.